First was Headless Halloween. Then came Weirdo Halloween. And finally, we are reviewing today at Goosebumps for Dummies. I'm reviewing Zombie Halloween. Almost said Headless Halloween. Yeah, Zombie Halloween. One of the free, maybe more, but I'm not thinking of Goosebumps book titled Blank Halloween. Yeah, I swear to God, Stine uses like some sort of wheel to make up these titles, right? Werewolf, skin, vampire, breath, zombie, Halloween. You see where I'm going? It's two words. Both of them are like a noun. Breath, skin are sort of nouns. Halloween is a noun, proper noun, because it's a day. Sort of. It's a version of a noun. And then you put a monster in front of it. We got weirdo. Because weirdo is a monster in the Goosebumps series. There are weirdos in the Goosebumps series. And then we have zombie and vampire and wereskin. I swear to God he has a wheel somewhere in his house where he just makes up these fucking titles with it. And this is the blandest of them all. It is a really just bland-ass title. Zombie Halloween. I'm so engaged immediately. I'm super intrigued. Yeah, but does the lack of a good title get made up for with its story? Because this is actually a quite well-liked modern, and though not talked about super often, it is a liked one. Whenever I hear it brought up, it's like usually positive. Well, we're about to find out what I think of it, so let's get to the blurb. And now for the Zebleb. What happens at this house on Halloween? Genny Manzetti was the new kid in town. His family moved back into an old house to help take care of his grandfather. Everyone in his neighborhood is obsessed with zombies, even Grandpa Mo. But then a new family moves in next door, and their choice of furniture is interesting. Kenny is convinced that there's something strange about the new neighbors, but his parents won't listen to him, so Kenny and his friends go in for a closer look. A bad idea on any day, but definitely the wrong choice on Halloween. Will Kenny survive long enough to go trick-or-treating? He does not bother to go trick-or-treating at all. Zombie Halloween. It's generally just pretty average. It has great stuff, but it is, of course, the score rounds out to about an average, what it's going to get. A very average score. I still think there are above average things in the book, I'll give it that. And I do really recommend it, but it's kind of average, and it could have been cut down a little. Although I don't really mind the length, I think it is fine for what it is, unlike the other special editions, which are way too long for their own good, because they don't deserve that length. We'll get to one soon, and it is a genuinely just decent read. So let's get into why it's so decent. The book's biggest strong suit is the atmosphere and just the creepiness factor, and the scare factor. There are some scares in a Goosebumps book. Who'd have thought? There's scary things and creepy things in this book. So, this book's atmosphere is super Halloween-y and just super what it is. It has its kind of unique atmosphere. It has this fall vibe with something, it feels like something's wrong, like something's off the whole book. Something's not right, in a good way, of course. And I like that. This has a very strong atmosphere and just vibe from this book. I think this is the strongest I've seen in any modern Goosebumps book in terms of atmosphere. It's super present, this atmosphere. And it elevates the story quite a lot. I really love the atmosphere, I like the writing, and all of the stuff revolving around it. It's a very creepy and unnerving story. I mean, look at the cover, you already tell what you're getting into. Haunted house. Well, not haunted in this book, it is in other special editions too. Huge spoiler. Yeah. 2 for 4, I believe, all are haunted houses stories. This one just takes place in the house before it's so run down. And, yes, because this is the same house in the other special editions for Most Wanted, excluding Haunted Mask, because that has nothing to do with this. This one, it doesn't have any haunted house stuff, but you still have this sort of creepy old rundown house, and what you know is in the basement the entire time, because it's told immediately in the prologue, sort of, or the 1990-something, 1940-something, I can't remember when exactly it was, I think it was 1944, a flashback at the beginning of the book. It's just that creepy presence of knowing what's down there, and what's going on, or some things that these characters don't know. It's so nice. And speaking of that 1994 segment, I believe that's the year, right? I'm not being an idiot. Yeah, I'm right. That is the best part of the book, bar none. It is my favorite. It's such a solid opening. It doesn't need to be there, honestly, But it elevates the score quite a lot just because it's a really solid, honestly could hold up on its own story, where these kids find this creepy, almost liminal space under their house that is a creepy tunnel that starts off as like a little room and then turns into a dark tunnel, where they find zombies just lurking down there. It's horrific. It's creepy, and someone dies. Someone fucking dies in there. Yeah, that's dark, and it's really creepy, and I like how it plays into the climax, albeit kind of lame. I'm glad it was kind of brought up. Kind of. And I like the reveals that it implies involving Grandpa Mo being a certain character that went down there in 1994. It explains a lot. Even though it was predictable, I saw it coming the second he showed up in the book, Grandpa Mo. I was like, yeah, that's a solid twist. You know, I like that either way. I don't mind its predictability, albeit, well, predictable. So, 1994 segment is awesome. The entire story is creepy, atmospheric. The characters are good. The zombie horror, when it's done, you know, actual zombies, not some fake out shit or whatever. It's really, really solid. And yeah, it's just a really creepy and unnerving Halloween story with some flaws. Yeah, this book fumbles the bag in a lot of places, which just rounds out to be average. Because it would have been like a 9 out of 10, the story's really good. If there was like, there's like these two little things I don't like. There's a big problem in this book. We'll get to that in a second. Start off with my smaller things. The pacing is a little iffy. It can be faster, it can be a little slower. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of off. And that especially is present in the climax, but so I'll get to in a second. Now, for my slightly bigger thing, for my smaller things. The fucking neighbors. Now, I don't hate them, which is why it's not as big of an issue for me. They're not bad. It's like, there's great mystery, and I like that. It helps the atmosphere, like something's obviously not right with the neighbors, which is true by the end of the book. Something's not right. Big spoiler, they're vampires. Yeah, which is abundantly obvious. Called that shit immediately when they brought up coffins in the book. I'm like, that's a vampire thing, not a zombie thing, you fucking buffoons. Called immediately. Reminds me of a certain ending in another zombie book that came out in Modern Goosebumps. It's just like, it's really obvious twist, but either way, the characters, those neighbors' characters, they added like nothing to the story. Sure, they have good mystery. Sure, they're kind of spooky. It's not kind of unnerving, you know. But the reveal of them towards the end of the story involving coffins and what the hell those are for, it's kind of dumb. I mean, sure, it kind of makes sense. Basically, they, quote-unquote, used to own, like, a funeral parlor or some shit, and they just had spare coffins lying around, and they couldn't, you know, it ran out of business, which is why they moved here, and they just used those for storage. Like, sure, but, like, you built this whole thing up. This was the main thing of the story, by the way. This is the big plot beat. And it was just a waste of time. That's like 30 pages extra fat that could have been cut off. And whilst I feel the book's page count is justified, not the pacing. It's just like, why? I still like all of their presence in the story, but that reveal isn't great. And the twist at the end of the book, the very end of the book, how they're vampires, is really fucking shit. And speaking of the end of the book, here it is, we're gonna bring it up. The end of the book is fucking almost dog shit. I almost wanted to like it, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get into it. The pacing is horrible, straight off the bat. This is where the pacing is truly fucking awful. Like, all the whole book I'm going, yeah, it's kind of fast, kind of slower at times. And then the pacing is just like 10-page climax. It can work if this story was way shorter, but this is a long story. I expect a long climax. It's kind of weird. But no, we get this half-assed 10-page Halloween party segment that rushes through these reveals that I would have loved to see expanded on more, involving the certain kid who died in the intro. She comes back as a fucking zombie, and we barely get anything off that. I would have liked some sort of, like, you know, closure to that. I would have liked them to reunite and maybe get along, or I'm talking about Grandpa Mo and the dead girl. I would have liked them to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, and they just forgave each other. That would have been so nice. And it just comes off horribly. And nothing happens with that. She shows up. She thinks the main character's Grandpa Mo. She doesn't realize it's been almost 100 years. It's just like, why, dude? What the fuck? It doesn't do much with that. It doesn't do much with the zombies. They just show up. And even that's, like, fine. Like, it's good. That's where, I mean, the zombie horror is decent. The zombies coming out of the trap door to this, the liminal space area, the tunnel, really creepy until their weakness is revealed, which is fucking terrible. And it involves a certain candy that was used throughout the book, very vaguely. Almost like, I'm fine with, things being hinted at. I'm not fine with being candy. Like, you could have made it something completely different, but you chose zombie candy. Fuck you. That's stupid bullshit. I hated that. Worst defeat I have seen to any villain in a long time. Not ever. Can't say ever. I can't be too confident there. But yeah, it's one of the worst fucking defeats I've seen. And then you get the shitty ending with the neighbors being vampires, which should have been a big plot beat that should have happened earlier instead of the very end. But still, fuck it, whatever. I guess that happens now, just so we can have an half-assed twist. I really like the story, don't get me wrong, but it's just the final 10 pages dragging on the score by alone 1.5 points, which is generous. I could deduct more if I wanted to, but honestly, it isn't the worst final 10 pages. I'm not completely disappointed with how things turned out before the final chapter, when the zombies started eating candy and the shitty-ass twist ending, and even in there, I think there was a nice little cover-up about teenagers. That was the explanation of zombies. I thought it was really funny. It was like a laugh-out-loud moment, which is not common in Goosebumps. But even then, it's still not a great final 10 pages. But I'm a little forgiving on it, because I didn't completely, utterly hate it. But it fumbled the bag, and it kind of pisses me off more on retrospect. So, yeah. Zombie Halloween has some shitty pacing. More iffy, not completely dog shit, but especially in the final 10 pages. It's rushing through a climax that doesn't allow it to do what it wants to, with a shitty reveal that it should have happened earlier, and a shitty explanation, and just shit. But it's not complete dog shit, and this story is honestly average. At least it rounds out to be. Let's get to my rating. I give this story a flat 8 out of 10. Zombie Halloween, not thoroughly impressed, but I'm not disappointed either. I'm glad I read it. This is a story that I enjoyed a fair bit. I was enjoying my time with it until the very end, and honestly, I really just had a blast with it. Borderline. I had a borderline blast with it, something I've never given, but it wasn't my favorite read. It wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't even that fun, but it was like, I almost had a blast with this. It has some really good stuff to be offered, like the atmosphere and the first 40 pages being a great intro. It's just dragged down by a few things. And yeah, it's my review for Zombie Halloween, my first Most Wanted Special Edition excluding Haunted Mask. I'm talking about the main 4, alright? Main 4, with the haunted house. Well, not haunted in this one, but yeah, it's not yet to be haunted. And soon we'll be reviewing Trick or Trap to give you an idea of what we're talking about for the next Most Wanted Special Edition review. Of course, that is a Halloween book, so I wonder what month it's going to come out in. Maybe literally in a couple of days. See you guys in the next one also. Tell me what you think of this one below. And what do you think? Do you think this is deserved of the page count? I think it's justified. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.